Okay, so I don't know if you've been able to pick up on it as we're going through the PTP. I'm not a huge fan, okay? They did that because they want the state to get 100% compliance on their transition pages, okay? It kind of really irks me because I really believe that the IEP is the driving force for our students. It's how we organize what we're going to do to help them. It's how we keep track of what special things they need, what accommodations, how we keep track of what classes they're going to need, how we keep track of what special ed classes are fulfilling requirements for graduation. Okay, so people always hate IEPs because it's yet another paperwork thing, but I always felt like it was a really important document for our kids. And I know that it's a pain in the butt, and I know that they try to make them easier, and in making them easier, they made them more complex, okay? But I really firmly believe that the IEP is so important. It's so important that we have goals for our kid, that we're working on something to help them to get to where they want to be. That it just doesn't become, we have a great English goal that's formulated to be measurable, so and every one of our kids, we use that goal. That's not the whole idea. These should be specific to your student. So when they came out and they rolled out this, it really, 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 really made me sad, and really, really, really made me mad, because like we kind of discovered, it's really hard to make it that living document. If they had a little box next to that thing and you could check it, or if they had a little box next to the class and you could say, put a pass on it, so you knew that that kid got that, well then it would be maybe something we could use. But it's just become the pages so that we're compliant. So I guess my challenge would be to you is to try to, in the little boxes, in your comment boxes, in your addendum pages on your IEP, to make that IEP something that you can really use. So that next year, maybe if you don't have that student, the teacher that has them can see what you've done, can see what your plans are with that student to get them to where they want to be. A lot of it is how you structure that IEP meeting. We were kind of talking before that when I led IEP meetings, I started with the transition pages. That's where I started. And so we decided this is where, this is the ultimate goal for the student. If the student said they want to be an NBA star, do you put it on there? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what the student wants. That's their goal. Is it realistic? Well, not if they're only on the Special Olympics basketball team. Not if they're not the star center of your high school team, right? But that is where that plan, that's where all those activities you have under there, that's where all those things are your reality check. Okay, that you get that student wants to be an NBA player, they're not on the basketball team. Maybe you start, getting them exposed to those basketball kids. Maybe you see if they can even make the basketball team. Maybe you take them out on a job shadow to see another job that might be more interesting to them than being the basketball player. Maybe you're having these discussions with them and running them through all these different activities to see what is it about being a basketball star. Is it the money? Well, what other jobs can you make money with? What do you have to do to get those kinds of jobs? Have them research jobs, have them research careers. Okay, so those coordinated set of activities, that big, huge section that she has in there, those are all the things you're doing to bring the student, hopefully, to a sense of reality. So that maybe they want to be a pro basketball star as a freshman, but by the time they get to be a senior, they've figured out that they want to be an apprentice electrician or something. Okay? So you get them to their reality check. And we need something to keep track of how to do that. And I think that is the PTP, that is those pages. Okay, so that's why I always started with that and then progressed to the IEP. We were discussing beforehand that Megan starts with the present levels of performance. And I think that's good if you're really careful about how you write that. If you make sure that that is written as positively as possible. So many times I see those, And I feel so bad for the kid because all these rotten things about him. They're 20 million points behind in the MAP scores. They're in the minimal in their WPCE. All these negative things are all piled up on top. That kid would feel like you know what I mean. It's totally awful. So if you have that carefully worded, where you have their, along with their deficits, you have the things they're good at, and it's really, it would be something that you'd be okay if someone was saying that about your child, then maybe start with that, okay? But if it is kind of a little bit rough and a little bit, maybe you want to hold off on it, I don't know. But I guess my whole thing would be maybe you really want to make sure that if you're looking at that present level of performance, that if somebody read that to you about your own baby, that you would be okay with that you wouldn't get tears all well up in your eyes because you feel so bad that somebody said all these real negative things about your student. Okay? So I would start with the PTP, and then the whole IEP rolls out of that. And you go into your pages talking about what accommodations do they need, what modifications maybe. Be careful about modifications, though, if your student wants to go to college, because they don't modify in college anymore. Okay? They're not going to say you only have to write a 10-page paper if everybody else has to write a 25. No, everybody's got to write the 25. Okay? So be real careful on those things. And then you get to your goals. Your goals should match up with what we talked about as their end game, what they really want to be, what they really want to do. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So then we'll go back just a little bit. So there is the box in there where you talk about your assessments. How did you get to this? What have you done to kind of see the skills or the interests that your student has? It's hunky-dory if you have a discussion with them. But when you were 14, did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up? No, I didn't know. I had no clue. The only other job I saw, my dad was a principal, and I knew I didn't want to do that because he was tired all the time. So it was, I didn't know. So your kids probably don't know that much either about what kinds of jobs, okay? So there are some tools. These books are around. I can pass it around. There's 3 different books. One does academic type things. It does learning style inventories. It does all that kind of stuff so kids kind of get an idea of where they stand and what their strengths and weaknesses are academically without being like a real academic-y kind of thing. And this is about transition planning. So there's career things, interest inventories, and most of them are like a page. Okay? So they're real nice. When I was a transition coordinator at Hamilton, I tore this book apart and I 3-hole punched it and had it in a binder in my office so teachers could come in and grab it and run down and have copies made and then use it with their students. So this one's real nice because they're even good for like a transition class, if you're teaching a transition class, just to get some ideas. And then you also have, you have a copy of the Wisconsin Transition Assessment Guide, and it has all other things you can use to talk to your kids and get them thinking about different things that they're interested in. Okay? Your guidance counselors in MPS should all know how to do career cruising. They can go on the computer and go through that. That one I think is pretty reliable. It's one of the only times I've ever taken one where the first thing was it told me to be a teacher. All the other ones said I should be a landscape architect. I don't know. I can't draw to save my life, so I don't know where it came from. But so that one, it seems to me like it's pretty on the ball. I know that you can hook it up to Premier so it can read your students. If your kids have a lower reading level, you can hook it up and they can get it that way.
Can you show them where I got the
Yeah.
transition assessment? Have you guys been on the WISD website at all? Is there any new trainings and tools? This is a really great site that has a ton of resources put on it. It's used to be the Wisconsin Statewide Transition Initiative grant, and now last summer it changed to the Transition Initiative grant, but it's still located under, it's just WSTI.org. And it's just a great resource for going in There's a calendar of events that talks about shows all the different trainings that are available. There are a ton of free transition trainings and transition conferences all around the state that you can go to because of this grant. A lot of it's covered under the grant. And then I wanted to show you where we got the transition assessment guide. Just went in here and did a search. And it came up with this whole list of different transition assessments. So, and this is just one example. You can go in here and search for guardianship resources. You can search for, if you're looking for just different agencies. I think you guys have, sounds like you have a transition project that you have to go and tour different places. And then do like a critical analysis of that. You could even go on here to research some of that stuff. But there's a lot more than just the toolbox, and this Wisconsin Transition Assessment Guide. And then just check out, talk to your building's transition coordinator, but they have a lot of transition assessments. Your guidance counselor for sure, there's a lot of stuff just free on the internet that you could pull off.
Is this, do you have to have login for this, or is it free?
No, I didn't do any. You can get your own login, and then you can kind of keep track of all the professional development that you do, but you don't have to. So you can just get into this now.
What is the ISA? What does that stand for? Transition
Improvement grant.
Transition. So that's the site, or
The
what's
TIG
the?
is this is new to us, it just came out this fall, but it's WSTI.org. WSTI, because it used to be the Wisconsin Statewide Transition Initiative,
Okay.
so it's WSTI.org. But I definitely recommend getting on this site if you're looking for just different resources.
Then there's also some other things, these are put out by DPI, and they're really good. DPI has trouble with licensure, but DPI has, and I only have 2 of them. This is Opening Doors to Self-Determination, Opening Doors, a Guide to Adult Services. There's also one for employment, and there's one for post-secondary. And is there a living one? I think there's like a daily living or living options or something. But these are the fancy schmancy printed out ones. And Laura wrote the employment one, so you get maybe extra bounty points if you use that one. But these you can also find on here, and you can also get to them from DPI and just print them out for yourself. But if you check with the transition coordinators in your buildings, they should all have these, because they gave us like boxes and boxes of these. And I'll pass them around. I use those during the transition class. So we read them, there's little activities they can do in them, and just really good information for parents, for kids, for you. And here they all are. Yep. And they have them in Spanish. Yay, personnel division, yay.
It just looks like you're still looking
Employment, adult services, self-determination, and post-secondary.
And you can just download them and print them off, or you can get the booklets. I think are a lot nicer.
They're shinier.
Yeah.
And then, I don't even know if they still print this thing.
They don't. It's just web now.
Yeah. So this is just a transition action guide, and just has everything, for teachers, some DVR information. ADRC is the Disability Resource Center in Milwaukee. It's adult services. It's where they would call right before they turn 18 if they're able to access those services. So you can pass
And
that
this is
around.
really supposed to be a guide for how all these agencies should work together to provide transition services. It's not just solely the responsibility of the school, depending on the deficits or the significance of the needs of the student. There should be multiple agencies. So let's just kind of, if you're ever wondering, okay, what exactly should I expect from my ADRC, or what should I expect from DVR? This is a good booklet for that.
Oh,
Sorry,
You guys
one,
read it?
please? I
Okay.
think so, yeah.
Okay. And it's a living document, so they've actually quit printing it because they're constantly making changes to it. So they kind of gave up on trying to keep a printed copy that was updated. So now you just go web-based. But I still have boxes of those in my office.
Yeah, they're.
I should have brought them tonight. I could have given you guys. Could have gotten rid of them.
All right. So are there any questions about any of that? Okay. So what do you do, how do we figure out if what we're doing is really working? Okay, because that's the big question. A lot of it is when you go back in to review your IEP, what's been going on? What things has the student experienced? Has those experiences enlightened them, changed their mind, brought up other things for them? A big part of it in Milwaukee is referring them to the program I work in, the Community Assessment and Training Program. So students are doing great, they're earning their credits, everything's going, but they have no idea what they want to do when they grow up. They don't have those soft job skills yet. They don't have very nice social skills yet. You really feel they need to work on them in a different environment. Maybe they need to get out of your building a little bit because they get a little bit goofy with all the kids around. You can refer them to the CATP program. If you're not in Milwaukee, if when you graduate you get a job somewhere else, maybe you need to call around to businesses, to places around you to say, I got this kid, can you stop in, can you see what's going on, can you do some job shadowing, can we just like do a walkthrough and then just kind of talk about what different jobs people have. You know, all that kind of stuff is like the fill-in things. And that's why it's real important when you're doing these meetings is who's going to do that? Sometimes OTs do that. They want to get out with the kids. Sometimes if your students have mobility training, the mobility trainers would take the kids out to do those kinds of things. So those are all the kind of things to be talking about in meetings. Yeah, this kid needs a job shadow, but who's going to do it? You know, do you have time as a classroom teacher? Sometimes you do. Sometimes you can, you know, I did a scavenger hunt at the mall where I took my class to the mall and they had to find a whole bunch of different jobs that they saw. And then we went back to school and they kind of researched, they looked online, is Victoria's Secret hiring? Is, you know, Macy's hiring? What's going on there? And then they kind of saw what the different job requirements were. And they kind of get an idea that, oh wow, there are a lot of people that are doing a lot of different things, okay? And that's kind of the point behind our program too is, you know, I have kids working at the hospital in the dish room. Well, he might not really want to be a dishwasher, but as he's in there, he's seeing what the cook is doing. He's seeing what the manager is doing. He's seeing what the people serving the food are doing. So he's kind of getting an idea of how this kitchen runs. And every time I go in to check on him, I'm asking, you know, what is he doing? What is that? You know, what do you have to do to be able to do that job? Or what do you think about that? And then he also, you know, asks other people questions about what their jobs are. So just by having them out in the community, they're getting a broader idea of what kinds of jobs are out there. And then it's all learning experience. Sometimes I call back to transition coordinators in the buildings and say, you know, he ran into a really nice doctor on the elevator today, and now he wants to be a plastic surgeon. Someone needs to sit down with him and research this. You know, just to give him that more reality check. So it's all, you know, you have to look at all those things that you have available to you. Sometimes you got to create them, and sometimes within your districts you have those things available to you. When I started as a transition coordinator in Hamilton 6 years ago, they weren't going out in the community at all. And then they were referring them all to the CATP program, and the kids were all getting fired because they didn't have the skills. You know, they had never been out of their little classroom. So we designed a whole transition program, the teachers working together, to get kids out in the community as small groups with the teacher. It wasn't the most ideal thing because you don't want this whole gaggle of people, you know, going out, but we were able to get them out, and that's how we started. Okay, so sometimes you got to create things, but also sometimes there are really good things available to you. Okay. Any questions? No, are you dying over there? Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. I just don't want you to die on your
Oh, no,
watch.
I
That'd be
won't
really
die.
bad. I get in big trouble for that.
You want to talk, maybe talk a little bit about,
Oh, that's good, yeah, that's good.
Those of you guys that are in school already, working with students, what are you guys doing to involve students in your IEP meetings?
I do a interview, like in advance, just get the student,
Okay.
we can sit down, have a series of questions, is, I think, something that Dr. Owens helped create, the maps, the making action plans. So, series of questions like that, and then trying to get them, prepped to lead the meeting, which is challenging, time-wise, to get them in. You can't just say, hey, you're gonna lead this, but to actually teach how they're gonna go about doing that, and, but trying to find time to pull them, to prep them for the meeting.
So how did you do that? How do you prep them for the meeting? What are those conversations like? Or activities like?
So the big things, just in the line of questioning, is that before I even get to the interview, I just put a few ideas in their head. This is, some of the broad field topics that I'm gonna talk about. It's pretty casual, just try to get them comfortable on it. I usually record everything, make a podcast on it, and then also, notate, right? I think, big goals, big time dreams, fears, things like that. Then, narrowing things down to the school year, what you need to be successful this year, what's getting in the way this year, what adaptations are working. Do you know why you have an IEP? Just going into that, so some of those basics. So some of them don't, and they don't know what an IEP is. One person asked me, I said, what is this? What is an IEP? And, he's been in the system for a while, so.
Never
Just,
break your heart.
yeah, it's strange, it's strange. But to try to get them as involved, sell them, give options to invite whomever you'd like to invite. We can go into friends, family, things like that. If you want to have people come down that can contribute, not just for fun, but that can actually contribute to this meeting. And then people that you don't want to invite, we don't have to have those people included either. So, outside of legal responsibilities. But, so in a nutshell, that's like that.
Anybody else in